Hi guys, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are we both?
Go for it, Dave.
Apart from a sore throat, I'm bunged up with, you know what, I'm okay.
I'm glad you didn't elaborate on that one, Dave, to be fair.
No, that's why I sort of stopped there.
Wise choice. Adam, how are you?
Doing all right. Just, you guys are already into your evening. So, for one, thank you for, making some accommodations for the time change, but doing well. So thank you.
You did just say, Adam, just before we went live, that you have got severe storm warnings over there at the moment.
Yeah. So it's weird is that there was some down in the Gulf of Mexico, there was a lot of tropical storms and things like that. And so they swooped up and now they've gone to the northern part of the country. And so now we're getting that bands of thunderstorms and things. So you never know. We'll see if the lights flicker and things like that here in a little bit.
Oh, no. I couldn't
It's not
think of anything worse.
though.
Yeah.
I seriously could not think of anything worse. Thunderstorms are a massive no-go for me.
Right.
Petrify me. Adam, just let's go to basics here. So let's go right back to the very beginning, because it's always good to get to know your guests really as you start to go along. So can you just tell us how you got into this wonderful, magical world of paranormal that we all seem to enjoy?
Right. Yeah, and I will do it as short as possible because I could take probably at least 10, 15 minutes, but I won't do that. And, even though maybe that's good because, in case you want to build up more questions, but no, my beginning's a lot different than compared to most people. I mean, I grew up normal, brother, mother and father, and nothing strange, happened. But, as far as paranormal goes, now the one thing that did pop up at one point in the 80s was I had some weird psychic moments. And back in the 80s, all this field was very taboo. There was things you just didn't talk about. And, it was strange that, and to be clear is that, that what happened was my mom's dad was passing away, from cancer. And I went to bed and we knew things were getting close. And this was like in the summertime. And I fell asleep. And then I just had this dramatic, vivid dream of what was going to be happening in a few hours. And it was during the week and things like that. And I remember waking up and it was odd was that in the dream, I saw everything happening. I knew, when my parents came home, I knew who was walking through the door first. I knew who was saying what, how the terminology, the tones of voices. I even knew that when, my younger brother, when he, we were all sitting in the same room when the news, they broke the news to us. And then but all that happened at the exact same time. And when it then happened, when I woke up, it just blew my mind. And I didn't say anything because how do you explain that? And I didn't know anybody. I had no circle of friends or, material to get, we didn't have internet in the 80s. So, but, that happened. And then it happened a few more times. My next grandfather was back then in the 90s, same situation, went to sleep, same thing. Everything I saw, everything happened. And then finally it started breaking out into just odd things. And, one that was funny was that, certain cartoons that, I would just start out of nowhere, think of this cartoon. And it was an old cartoon, something that was like in the, 60s, 70s. And it was, obviously I wasn't quite, I remember seeing reruns of things, but then it would come up. And then the very next day in the office with all my coworkers and stuff, those cartoons came up in the conversation. And I'm sitting there like, what is this? And so still didn't have anything through the 90s. And eventually we got into 2000. I got back into the grassroots of, how we as a human society, started from. So, living off the land. So I took some classes in outdoor survival and we had something local in my state and had a great time. But one of the interesting things about that class was it was taught from the Native American side of things. So a lot of like, if you didn't have equipment, what do you do? How do you find things to use? Mm-hmm. Based on that, they actually had another class that they also teach called Shamanic Journeys. And this intrigued me like you wouldn't believe. And so it was all about connecting with your spirit guides, or if you're religious, you can say angels, that's fine too. But we all have those that, kind of give you that gut feeling and those notions of like, maybe we shouldn't go down that road, or, you know what, let's not do this today or something like that. But we took the class and all it did was just open you up to that whole world. And that was in 2005. Mm-hmm. And then for the next 7 years, that's all I did was practice.
Sorry, Adam. I'm just a hero.
But hello.
Sorry.
No, we're good. So, but yeah, so I just kept working at that from 2005 to 2012. Now, in that time, obviously, over here, a lot of the once we kind of got away from the documentaries that were always happening, you got into the reality shows, and so obviously Ghost Hunters. I think everybody's heard them. That was a fascinating show, and that I thought it was cool because I remembered in the 80s some of those first documentaries that were done in the paranormal fascinated me to no end, because I'm like, that would be so neat to get to experience something, obviously not the bad stuff. It'd be neat. So all those years later, and then finally, I'm a musician myself when I have time. My dad is also a musician, and he was playing a performance at a specific location, which I'll explain more. And he found these little flyers that said, hey, we do ghost hunts here. Go to this website, sign up, and we were. It was it was a Saturday concert type of thing. Next morning, he's calling me up like as soon as he could wake up, and he's like, "We gotta go. We've been talking about this for a long time. Let's go ghost hunting." So
ghost hunting was something that you obviously wanted to do then, to be having that discussion with your dad, like you say. So that you was obviously intrigued.
Yep. Yeah. So it was. And so he was the one that really kind of got it started. But because I was looking around, my home state, and, it's just a lot of stuff was like 2, 3, 4 hours away. And it's like, gosh, I can't imagine being, investigating all night and then trying to have to drive home and then stay awake.
As we all know, it's not very easy.
But yeah, so I mean, it was great. It worked out. And then that started it. At the same time, I then was, seeing the shows. I mean, we all, started hearing about what mediums are and stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm connecting with mediums. I wonder how hard it is to open that door. And so the team that I'm a part of, had, she's still a part of it, but she's not as fully involved anymore. But she took me under her wing. So I met her right at the same time I did the first ghost hunt. And from then on, she took me under her wing and we started working on stuff. So I did working with my guides. Well, now I opened up that mediumship door. So I kind of joked that from 2012 to 2014, the January of 2014, I came out of the mediumship closet. So, and everything, it's just kind of gone from there. And so I just pushed to do this because, it was in my heart to continue to help people. I mean, the investigating, I still love to do that. I can go so many hours, hard with the mediumship, and then you just kind of lose all that energy. And now it's like, well, okay, I got equipment. Let's see what else we can do for the rest of the time we're here.
But you're also an empath as well, aren't you?
Right.
I mean, I suppose that comes hand in hand with
Yeah.
mediumship in a way, because it must be really difficult to have the emotions but not understand it. Dave, is that your house?
Charlie. My boys aren't fighting today. No.
Hashtag demon.
Well,
Only on Enter in the Unknown is all I'm going to say. You always expect the unexpected with us.
My dog.
That's awesome.
Shocking. So yeah, you're an empath as well. So you do tend to obviously feel a lot of emotions,
Right.
and pick up on a lot. How does that work inside with your mediumship?
Yeah, it's so now the interesting thing is how it's all kind of tied together. So when I started learning to communicate with my guides, it was always like, okay, this is what we're doing. Talk to them, and then I'm done. So it's always been an on-off situation. So I've always had control over it. Now with the sensitive side, the empathic side, that's always on. So obviously, I think most people, you could walk into a crowded room and you can pretty much tell what's going on, and you don't really have to be a hardcore empath to feel what's going on. But the more you do this, the more you open that door, you start to then pick up even more smaller details with key individuals that are in the room. You don't even have to just know that the general energy is one thing. It's now you can find that one person that may have caused it, or there's several people with issues that not everybody knows.
So I've also go on, Dave.
I'm going to put in there, Jen. So how many spirit guides have you got, Adam?
That's the interesting thing is, that varies. And the reason why it varies is because how I learned everything was everything has a purpose for one criteria in your life. Let's put it that way. So if you want, something for healing, well, you have a healing guide. If you want something to, show you the correct path, well, you have another guide for that. So probably a dozen or so. I've kind of lost count after a while because there's just so many different things. Sometimes they do tag team and they'll join up, especially depending on the situation and stuff, but helping with like predicting futures. So that psychic side that was slowly showing up, that's another one that just kind of, hey, I can tap into these guys and then be like, hey, what do we need to, what do you think? That sort of thing. But
sorry, I think we're getting a little bit of feedback there, so I do apologize if anybody watching at home, are you picking up on the feedback as well, or is it just from my end? Because if it is, I can have a play with the settings. Adam, are you? Let me see if I can adjust things this end while we're talking. So sorry, everybody. Adam, am I also right in believing that you can do remote viewing?
I do. That was something that I learned early on in the process of opening up. And it wasn't something I thought was possible through the paranormal, through mediumship and things, because when I learned it, it was, let's say you're in an unfamiliar area. Well, you can sit there or you're going to an area that's unfamiliar. You can do this remote viewing, or a lot of people do call astral projection. So they taught it as remote viewing, but when you really break both down, they're very, very similar. But it's neat to be able to take, and I like to say, your spiritual side of things, leave your body, check out an area, and then come back. And when you come back, it's interesting is that when you physically go there, you can actually see the things that you saw through your spiritual eyes. So it hit me at one point during some investigations that I wonder what would happen if I did the remote viewing, especially on private investigations, residential. And I thought, well, because obviously, the whole goal is to find out what's going on in a location, see if what the team would need to do in the end. And what I thought was, if we can find out where said spirit is or spirits are, they typically have a spot, or that they kind of hide in, when they know that we're on the way, I would do that. And it was always fun because you spend 6-7 hours, in a home, which again, sometimes, I don't know if you guys get to experience it, but the homeowners get tired after a while and they want to go to bed, and we're still trying to get some information, but we're trying not to drag it out all night. So the thought was, what if I remote in with full permission, written permission from the homeowners, that can I see what's going on? And when we get to the home, go to those spots first and see if we can get that spirit to communicate in whatever way they will, whether it's to me, the recorders, the other equipment, cameras, whatever they can do. And we found that it's able to cut our time down, sometimes 2-3 hours. So It's become a real good advantage for the team that I belong to.
That's quite a considerable change of time there. When it comes to doing your remote viewing sessions, how do you do that? If you can explain that in whatever
Yeah.
way you possibly can. Obviously, it's not easy. I mean, some people relate remote viewing to astral projection.
Yeah, I mean, I know the astral projections, if you look that definition up, they have a better way of wording it. But the idea is that you're going to meditate, so you have to quiet the mind down. I mean, all us mediums do that. You have to quiet down because you're blocking everything else out, so that way you can, whatever information is going to hit you, it has to hit you at a quiet level state. So when I do the remote viewing, I basically sit, I get away from all the family and things like that, and then I do a meditation, and essentially what happens is you start to lift yourself out of your body. So you basically feel as if you're floating out, and through spiritual eyes, you can actually watch yourself and imagine being like, an astronaut type of thing where you're going into space feeling weightless. You basically can kind of start turning and tumbling and looking at things, and you're going through the walls and ceilings, and you can actually see all the different material between the levels. Sometimes you can see your family as you're going by, being like, hey, so, but that's my thing, is that I get weightless, essentially get out of the house, and then I will fly to the area. I found ways to kind of cut some corners, and typically, like, I do remote viewing around the country and things. And so sometimes it's like, okay, well, at least give me the state, the city. So that way I kind of have a general idea. So I'm not flying around everywhere, finding that energy source of yours. But sometimes it's just to cut corners, because I like to do things in about 20 minutes or so, depending on how much activity, the reporting, and then what I do find on site. But yeah, it's all about, quieting yourself down, and then you're envisioning yourself leaving your body and then going to the location to then do the work, whether it's for a paranormal case or for healing somebody, because I do that as well, where somebody's not feeling well, and it could be just normal ailments and things like that I'll go and do them kind of a spiritual cleanse and healing and get them sort of back on track. So
how do we book in for this?
What's that?
How do we book in for this?
You just got to give me a message. Just message me, and we can we'll set a date and time. And then all I would do is, like, let's say, Gemma, for you, I would just say, okay, well, we're going to do this date, this time. I just need you to relax. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to sit or lay wherever is comfortable for you. And, we'll message each other before, and I'd be, okay, we're going to start now. And then the next time you get a message will be after it's all over.
So does this have to be on a specific subject? So if I messaged you and said, okay, let's not beat around the bush, right? So if I messaged you and said, Adam, I'm feeling so crap about myself. Please help me feel better.
Sure.
Is that something that you could do?
I could do that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people do it when it's, something more serious. They're, maybe dealing with a real, health issue. I mean, if you got a headache, we can certainly do that.
No, I mean, like take away the illness side of things. So, so if they're feeling like mentally not very well, so really down and depressed, and because let's face it, I mean, how many times have we heard somebody say, you've got a spiritual attachment when you're feeling down in the dumps, when a lot of the times it could be down to natural causes,
right?
I don't know, heartbreak. So, so for those sorts of ailments, can you use your remote viewing to assist?
Yes. And it, for a lot of times too, is even if maybe you're not even you're feeling fine, but maybe you feel a little sluggish or tired. A lot of times we build up over time, and I think right now, we're all experiencing some worldly things that are going on, and obviously there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of negativity, all that builds up. And when I do just normal cleanses or spiritual cleanses to people, when I see them, so when I would show up, and look at you, I'm seeing basically kind of like a little bit of a transparency. So you kind of, your shape, your body, your form is kind of translucent. But what happens is I see you to see where you have buildups or where there might be an area. So like sometimes I'll do something and see like maybe something around a knee that looks a little bit more strange to me. Like there's a lot of buildup, a dark material. I call it like black tar. type of thing. And I'll tell them about them. I'm like, hey, you know, what's weird is that you really got some issues with that knee. And then they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know that? I'm like, well, I saw it. And then what I'll do is I'll treat that. And I do a form of, it's like Reiki. So it's a lot of energy work. It's just more Native American based, which is technically the same thing. It's just a different preparation when it comes to how you do the energy transfer. So
can the person feel that? Because I know when I've had Reiki before, you can feel the heat.
Yes. Yeah. So when I do people for the first time, they've never had anything, I give them just a couple things to look out for just in case, but I don't tell them everything because sometimes I want to know if they experience something and more. But I do warn them. It could be warm, could be tingly, maybe a little bit of numbness. You might feel a little dizzy and things because it can be dramatic. And I did somebody about a month or so ago, and they were really dizzy, really lightheaded from it, which was a little bit more than normal, but they had quite a bit, built up. And so I really took some time to really push all that stuff and make them look completely clear and everything. So it was a lot of work on them, but at the same time, they're now doing great. They're wonderful.
So you do get, is the feedback instant? So are people, as soon as you've finished do you call it a cleansing?
Yeah, it depends on the situation. I mean, if it's just like one of those where I'm just going to do like a head to toe thing, you just want to just feel a little bit better, then I kind of call it a cleanse. I mean, if the intention is because you have, like your arms been hurting and things like that, then I'll shift it into more of a healing. And then obviously we can then get into the fact of, if you have an attachment, and that's what I'll see. If I come in there and I see something kind of literally looks like it's grabbing onto you, and there's different shapes that some spirits take when they are attached to somebody, for at least what I've seen, then I know how I have to go and approach that once it's time to get rid of that.
Have you ever come across a case that you've not been able to solve?
I've had, I should say, it's taken several times to get it to finally resolve. So, I try not to sit there and think, it's going to be a one and done deal every single time. If it's going to take me multiple times, because obviously, I don't charge for, the like attachment, removals and things. But readings are about really the only thing I charge, for. But the idea, is I tell them, if you still feel something, or your house still feels like something's going on, I'll be back as soon as, we'll schedule it as soon as possible, and I will keep at it. And if for some reason I still can't get any real true resolution, then I have a close network of other mediums that I will then be like, hey, like I said, I'm not going to leave you hanging. You will get it takes another person with a different set of eyes to then get the result you're looking for.
Sometimes is it a case of you need more power, if you will?
Yeah, and I've been fortunate a lot that, I have been able to. I've had some that it's been years, 3-4 years, and then they finally they're starting to have a little bit of activity again. But when I go to the house again, if I, then I'm noticing that, there's some, some little bit of stuff on the walls. Things are starting to kind of get back to where they were before. So, is it always going to be perfect? No, I think you're always going to have something. Plus the individuals themselves. If they're really open to, things that are going on, or they're not really protecting themselves. We all need to kind of, we want to investigate, we want to experience things, but at the same time, we still need to have a little bit of a wall to keep ourselves safe. And for me, that's been my goal, is that, I'm married and I have 2 young children, and the last thing I need is, spirits running around the house causing havoc and scaring my kids, and stuff. So I go through great lengths to make sure that when I leave a location, everything stays, and that when I come home, I'm completely, I'm protected, the house is protected. So, I go a lot.
So going on to your family, how do your family feel about what you do? Are they comfortable with it, as long as obviously you protect them, or do they get scared or nervous?
My wife is interesting, because as soon as I started going down the path to mediumship, she just didn't understand why I wanted to deal with others. She was okay with the spirit guides. why do you want to deal with something that might be evil or really nasty and stuff? And why would you want to put yourself in that position? But I always have had to explain it, and I don't have to anymore, but I've had to explain it to her is that, but these other people, my clients or, everybody's, dealing with something that they didn't ask to deal with. And so if I can do something to help alleviate that from them and not have to worry about having something, tearing the walls apart and knocking and pushing things and all the stuff that, can be on a real serious case, if they can live in peace, as I like to say, then it's worth me trying to go forward and do that with, for a client.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever had anything really negative that you thought, well, it's a bit of a handful, this one, I don't think I can get rid of it, or...
Yeah, and it's funny is the longer I've done it, it's interesting of how you start to see that we start to use words like cranky ghost instead, because they kind of do these tough things and we're all like, and I'm looking at them and I'm just like, get out of here, and so I start to get, there's only been a couple times that I have truly been taken down. One in particular was I just didn't catch the signs fast enough. And ironically, it was a Native American. And that was this warrior that was just, I mean, he did everything and anything. And he really took me down. It was the first time I ever walked out of a location. I got outside and the temperatures were cooler. I was standing there with no coat on, and I didn't even know it was cold out, even though I did, but I had to go outside to clear myself. And even when I came back inside, I still needed another 45 minutes, but I went back in there and still dealt with them. So I'll take a hit, but I'm going to get back up and I'm going to go forward again. And I'm not going to let them beat me. Now, I don't do anything demonic. That's something that, is more of a training situation. And I have a lot of, people that are in the business, that, are on TV and things that, they're like, don't touch it. I mean, don't even go down that path. It's not worth it, because with the mediumship whole thing, it's easy that they can follow you home and then mess with everything around you and your family and home. And I won't do it. So if it really seems like it's a true demonic, which we know can be rare at times, it's about the one thing I won't touch if the signs are there for it.
Well, they kicked me out.
No, Angela?
In my house, yeah.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Can you say that again, please?
Oh, no, I just said that kicks me out because I've got things going on in here.
Yeah, you see, I've only heard bits of what you've got going on at your end, Angela, but you are experiencing difficulties at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, major difficulties. My youngest is being attacked, and it's telling him things, showing him things. He, as I can feel just right before he gets attacked. I know it's in the room. We both can sense it at the same time. We do have out-of-body experiences. We have had the same dream, which my dream connected to his. We were both going into this big house, and come to find out there was a big white house that sat here right where the apartment sits. And I went in, told these other little kids, and my kids were with me, and I said, go up and pick out your bedrooms. I don't know why we were even there. And the next thing I know, I saw these big giant beetles, like Egyptian beetles, come flying down from the stairs. Or they weren't hitting into me, they were hitting into the wall and the floors and just dying. And I was walking up the steps and moving them aside, and I told the kids, I said, well, we'll just clean this out later. And so I woke up after all that. Now, I took a good look around the house and to remember what I'm seeing, because it felt so real. So I woke up, and an hour later, my youngest woke up, and he said, Mom, I had this weird dream about these flying bugs. And I went, like, it just stopped me in my tracks. I said, flying bugs. And he says, well, they weren't bugs. They were more like beetles. He said, they look like Egyptian beetles. I went, oh, dear God, And I said, okay, I said, well, here's a pamphlet for you to draw what you saw, and I'll draw what I saw in my dream. And he said, did you dream? I was like, I said, wait until we're done. So we drew, everything matched, similar, the beetle, how the wings came out underneath the hard shell of the wing and went upward towards its head. And that was, I was stunned. I said, how in the world does that happen? And people, you know, when I spoke to some others, they said, it's demonic. There is something that is definitely that is attached to you or your son. Something's going on. So the more we checked out, the more that we found out that there, like in our drawings, we drew a stone well out in front of this big white house. Well, this big white house used to sit here with a stone well, and it had these pink trees all around the house, and that's why Dominic, in his dream, in his bedroom, he wanted to open the window and look out at this pink tree because it was so close to the window, he said. When he did, that's when all the beetles come in, and that's when he told me, and I said, you're the one that let the bugs in. And that to me, I don't know how. You know, there's like no explanation that I could even give to anybody. But demonic will make you dream things. They will make you see things. Even he's been doing this ever since he was 2, and he could never sleep in his own bed. You know, I didn't know what I was up against. I knew something by the time he was 3 that there's definitely paranormal going on because his crib shook. He never slept in his own crib. I had to take him out of it. Didn't know why it was shaking. I've never seen a child just right before he was 2 to try to climb out of his crib like that. It was crazy. So, you know, a lot of different things go on in here. It's very, very bad.
Are you getting help for that at the moment, Angela? Or is that, I mean, Adam, what do you make of what Angela's just been describing?
You know, a lot of times I don't get into real deep questions and things like that because if like for me, if I was going to work the case, then I want to be as cold as possible. But, you know, Angela, was some of this happening like as soon as you moved, or, you know, were anything happening prior to?
Ever since I was little, I've had, since age 2. And I remember my first attack by this demonic source at age 2 because it was my birthday night. My mom just put me to bed. She's tickling me, tucking me in, saying, you're my big birthday girl, now you're 2. And I remember this so clearly. And then I can't tell you how long I've actually laid there with my light off and I only had a Jesus night light on. And then I just started hearing this growling, and then, you know, I'm looking around the room and I can feel it all around the room like it was spinning. It just felt like a dizzy feeling to me. And I couldn't understand why I was feeling that. And then it just like this fear came over me, and I was sweating, popping out in sweat. And then all of a sudden I just couldn't move. And then that is when I seen these red eyes and this black figure come at me, and it grabbed me from up under me. And I'm laying down on my bed, and I'm like, now for any 2-year-old, that's gonna, you know, that's gonna change your life. I mean, because I remember
to be fair, that would probably change somebody's life that was in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. In all fairness, so.
And then, you know, did your mother or grandmother or anybody else experience this? Because I keep starting to sort of feel like this might be something that's been continuing to pass down through the family.
Yes, it has been. You know, like in the Bible, it says, you know, we're given gifts for these things. But I tell you, the things I've seen and had to go through, I just, you know, started calling it a curse. My mom has had it, but she didn't know what was going on with me because I'm only 2. So my vocabulary wasn't as big and wide as everybody else's. I couldn't explain to her. All I could do is say, you know, Mom, you know, monster or something. She's like, oh, you know, every night. And then I never put 2 and 2 together that, you know, since Dominic was 2 and now he is 14. So it just didn't dawn on me until I actually seen something chase him down the hallway. And I said, I know you. You know, it was just that feeling. And then ever since then, I can sense him right before he's attacked. I'll run and get him. Sometimes I'm like a second too late. and he'll start screaming, and he can see it. I have pictures, revealing pictures of this, and of these things grabbing at him.
Wow.
And it's just, I have video of it. The list goes on, and it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. I want it out. I want it done. I want it gone. But he could never sleep in his own bed. I tried a top bed, made him pick, I let him pick out his own netting, hopefully that it would work, he'll sleep in bed. Never did. So to this day, he bunks out in my room, either on the floor or right next to me. He'll say, Mom. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, can you put on a prayer? So I play, thank God for YouTube, because I can play these prayers that loop all night long for like 12 hours.
Do you find that actually helps you then, Angela? Is that what's keeping you guys safe at the moment? Your belief in God and the prayers that you've obviously got playing, is that what's keeping you sane, if you will?
Yeah, Dominic, he can see these things clearly. Like it starts out like orbs, and then we see these things manifest from these orbs. And, there's a lot of people who haven't really seen this, and we have. And I keep telling people, they have like these I call them Crayola color charts of orbs. I don't believe in that, because they're calling, the red one is for love, and I'm like, no, or no, because I see these things and they're evil, and it's from these red orbs. There's a lot of red ones in here and black ones in here and blue. And these blue ones, when they hit light, you can actually see a change of color in them to turn red. And when I went around doing basically like an exorcism, I went around, and every time I got to, God is my Holy Father in heaven. He is our creator, and Lord is our Savior, who died for us on the cross and shed his blood for us. When I say that, these black orbs turn red and get real bright red. And Dominic says, I think it's working. Keep on doing it. Keep on going. So then when I keep on going, it's like they dart off somewhere else, and they're very well of hiding. So when you try to capture them, I've got very rare pictures of the black orbs, and they don't fully come out. They almost look like a shadow. So when I capture them with a digital camera, love digital cameras, you can set them on infrared and you can pick them up, and they're really good. So first, when I guess it was like the first week or so we moved into this place, it felt positive. I felt really, way to go, get a job, do all these things. And as soon as I started feeling that, it started diminishing. Like, I felt the whole change of the atmosphere turn. And then I had the boys in school already. I went to Walmart, bought a lot of stuff, brought it back, fixing up their beds. And when I came back in the front room to grab another bed in the bag thing to put on their bed, and this black figure, in a black hooded robe, I'm walking from the kitchen and I stopped in my tracks. I was like, and I'm going, no, not here. Oh no. I'm thinking, oh, not again, whatever. And they walked the hallway, walked into the boys' back bedroom. And so that was the start of it all. Then we were hearing bangs into the window, like it sounded like birds or bats being flown into the window, but there was nothing there. All the glass windows. Then it was, footsteps, then Dominic being scratched, and then Dominic's name being called all night long. And then I was hearing a mimic that was, in my kids' names, calling me. And I'm like, no, wait a minute, they're in school. So I would call the school to make sure that they are actually sitting in their seat and they're okay. And the teacher's like, well, we can't give you that information because of, security purposes. And I'm like, look, I'm their mother. I can tell you everything about them. I said, but I need you just to tell me if my child is sitting in that seat. And I made them, I got real mad. So she says, yeah, okay. She goes, I'll do it this time. I said, thank you. I was so mad. And so they were okay. And I said, oh, geez, I don't know what's going on here, but there is more than one. And I could feel it all around the room. We would come in, the door we couldn't open the door because it felt like something was resisting it. All these crazy things were going on. I said, I don't know what to do.
How do you manage a situation like that? I mean, from a medium's point of view, because that to me is saying that is an extreme case. So you would surely, I mean, first gut instinct for most people would be, I need to move, I need to get out of here, I need to get away, blah blah blah. But from a medium's point of view, Adam, how would you challenge that? Because it sounds extreme.
Yeah, I mean, this would definitely be one of those times that whether there's a trusted team locally that that has the time put in, because obviously this would be something that you'd want somebody to check out. If it is, Angela, like you're saying, I mean, if we're talking something that's really powerful and with the level that it's going, I would be leery, even for myself, to do a remote in, just because of the fact that if it is that true level, like I said, that it's just a safety for me to not have it follow me, because all it does is it just kind of takes a piece of itself off, and then it starts to multiply in other areas, and that happens.
Right.
And obviously it doesn't really help, but you want somebody local, if there is anybody, or at least within a reasonable distance, that can make it out, and perform an investigation to at least see if there's something that they can, one, experiences, not that, we're saying, your claims aren't legit or not, because you have evidence and things, but obviously, it helps, the team then build what's the next steps for them to do. So
Right.
if they're into removals and cleansing, and maybe they have, a medium on the team that then can do that, where they can cleanse it, sage, all the other natural things, to see if that'll start the process, because maybe that's all it takes. Maybe I'll just take one good cleanse, and get that, out of there, not only the house, but you personally, in your family. So I would definitely want to see if somebody local would try to get on that first, because like I said, you want to have those people in there with you.
Right. I had a priest come out, and he came out 3 times. So that on the third time he came out, because he knew by the second time he came out that there was definitely something here. Because a Roman Catholic priest, they do believe in other psychics. They actually have these people working for them. Right. Not many people know this. Mm-hmm. And so he came here with the woman, and he also gave me a number for another woman to call, but she never called me back. I don't know the reason. I don't know if it was an emergency, but other than that, but he came here the third time, did an exorcism, and we all felt something lift off, but I knew, and Dominic knew, that there was something that still stayed behind, because our backs, the bottom of our spines, hurt, and that we've been checked before, and there's nothing, they can't see anything wrong with them, but it hurts to walk, and that is what was stopping me from, going forward to do things that I needed to get done. And I knew it was like some kind of a hold by this, whatever this is.
Isn't that classic though for the we'll call it an evil entity? They do try, or it's alleged, they try to pull you down so that you're unable to move on, to live a normal life, and sort of seclude you. So do you feel that's what's happening, Angela?
I do, because we were standing there praying, doing the prayers and everything with him and the lady, and you can see the depression on Dominic's face. You can see it. And she looked right at him, and she knew. She said, "You can just see it on this poor baby." She goes, "I can see it." And so we're standing there praying. I thought I was going to fall to the floor because I was in so much pain. But I said, I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm standing here. I'm going to continue to pray to God. I don't care how bad it hurts. And Dominic was feeling it. So when the priest left, it kind of subsided. And I said, why were we hurting like that? And so with all of that going on, we let me get my face. Where am I? Okay, here I am. So after he left the last time, it was 3 days later, this thing started bothering Dominic again. I don't know if I'm having difficulty here, but it started bothering Dominic again, and I felt it as soon as he got up. I can hear him get up out of the front room to walk in my room, and he said, "Mom," and I said, "I know, I feel it," and it felt stronger because it just followed him in my room, and I said, it's in here. And he says it's right behind me.
You see, you're
I can
quite
feel and
empathic
sense them
as well,
sometimes.
though,
I
aren't you,
can.
Angela?
Yeah.
You're quite empathic,
So
aren't you?
he's yes, and Dominic has it stronger. He can see them, hear them, talk to them, and hear them talk back to him. And it said right up behind his head, he said, "Did you miss me?" in a demonic voice. And Dominic's eyes, I mean, you know, the first time he was ever attacked, I have never seen any child in my life as like that scared, because it picked him up and dropped him in his room. And I didn't see it, but I heard everything. And I said, "What?" And they didn't have anything in their room at the time, just their air mattresses. And until I got their beds, and there was nothing in there. But when I'm in my room and I heard him trying to scramble to get out of there, it sounded like he was climbing through boxes and trying to get out, and paper, and there was nothing in there. And he barreled in through my room. I couldn't open my door fast enough. And he said, and he was standing with his eyes wide open, and just he couldn't, any shadow that moved, his own shadow, he jumped, and he was scared, petrified out of his mind. And then he explained to me, I have like 7 or 8 video clips of him explaining what this thing looks like. And to him, it looked like a werewolf kind of figure.
How old is he, Angela?
So I started. He's 14 now. When it all started.
I was going to ask Angela, I mean, now, do you guys go, a couple parts, you know, one, do you guys go on vacation, and aside from that, when Dominic's at school, you know, what type of student is he? You know, is he, you know, how's his grades? Is he involved in other, you know, activities, clubs, that sort of thing at his age?
No, he doesn't. He was really good in his grades. I mean, he was, you know, about average, and sometimes he'd do better than that. And then just as time went on here, it started going downslope a bit. And so I was trying to help him get things done and trying to help him with his work. My mom would get on there, and then, you know, she'd be on my phone with him on video chat and helping him with his math and stuff. I am not a brilliant person at math. So she's helping me, helping him, and we're and him are confusing her too. And she's like, you know, I got to look this up. And I said, well, I'm going to go look on YouTube. So, you know, that's how we got that done.
So he's 14 now, Angela. How old was he when this first started? How long have you been living in there?
We've been in here for 4 years. We did hear from a church that we were going to because it was closer, because of my back started to hurt. And I said, oh, I wanted to go to a Catholic church, you know, Roman Catholic. But I ended up going to the one behind because it was closer to walk to. And they said they ended up telling me that there were witches, you know, some time ago that lived all in these apartments, and Satan worshipers. They had it advertised all over their cars, their clothes that they wore, you know, everything. So I can't say, you know, I don't know, but it's just horrible. There was a woman that lived here before us, and she had either 1 or 2 kids. But they told me she left out of here in a hurry and just left everything up there, and they don't know why they, you know, that she would leave everything behind. And then when I moved in, the woman at the rental office says, well, if you hear anything in the bedrooms moving around, or it's just the wind blowing in the walls and stuff. And I was like, I never gave it a thought. And I said, now I know why the woman left. She had to have left because of whatever's in here. So, you know, other people are having experiences in here too with their televisions going on and off.
Adam, just out, because obviously this is your area of expertise, if you like, Adam. Actually, before we go on to that, where did the Black Swamp medium come from? Sorry, just going off topic. I will go back, but I've got to ask that while I remember.
I was going to ask that as well.
No, you know, obviously my formal last name is something difficult for most to say, so
that's why I didn't even try. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. And so I kind of wanted, you know, something to be a little bit, you know, sort of like a catch name, and I didn't. I mean, I could sit there and, you know, just throw out another name, you know, whatever. But I thought what was interesting about the Black Swamp was that it actually, the town that I live in was a part of the Great Black Swamp, and it was like I don't know the conversion, sorry, so I'm going to say it in U.S., but it was over about 230 some miles wide. So, but it would go from Cleveland. So if you guys are familiar with Ohio, it would go from Cleveland all the way just over the border into Indiana. So it just happened to be neat. And I thought, there's a friend of a team that actually is called the Blacks, Northwest Ohio Black Swamp. But I just thought I'll throw that in there because it kind of at least gives me a little bit of a homey feel to it.
I like it.
So.
I do like it. Sorry, I had to ask that while I was there.
Is that anywhere near the Lake Erie as well?
It is. Yes. I mean, I'm only like 15, 20 minutes from Lake Erie, so I'm really, really close to it. Yep.
God, it's all right for some, isn't it? The nearest I get is Willesby Woods, which is ridiculous. But going back to it, so with you being, this is obviously your area of expertise that Angela's obviously living with and has been living with. Did you say for 4 years, Angela?
Yeah, we were here for
years. So how on earth, I mean, it's had the house or apartment has had a cleansing, it sounds like Angela's tried everything that she could possibly try.
Right.
But it obviously keeps getting worse or keeps coming back. So realistically, Adam, what is maybe not quite right? Or is it maybe, because did you say it was a Roman Catholic priest that had done the cleansing? So could it be that it's a different faith and they need somebody from a different...
He was a deacon, a Roman Catholic
deacon. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead, Angela.
Oh, no, it's okay. You can go ahead.
No, I think, especially, if you've had the Catholic Church there and they've done what they do, it's interesting that they weren't able to make a lot of headway. So now I start to wonder, I mean, were they doing everything that, were they trained to do exorcism? Were they doing it correctly? And I'm not saying they weren't. It's just, why wasn't it taken?
Well, let's be realistic here, guys. And I am always one to be a bit controversial and just say things as they are. So anybody new watching in tonight, I apologize in advance, but that is just me and it's just the way I am. We do get a lot of frauds in the paranormal industry. A lot of frauds that will say that they can do a house clearing and they can do an exorcism, and people will come along, even from different faiths and different churches. They will come along and think that they're helping you, when in actual fact, all they're doing is making the situation worse.
Right.
Yep. And I think what I would do, and just my thing was then I would like. I mean, again, going back to the same thing, hopefully, Angela, maybe there's somebody local to you, and somebody that, you can get, some, verification that, they are trustworthy and that they know what they're doing. But for me if I was in your area, I would definitely get you away from the house for one, and we would have a conversation. And with that conversation, depending on how it goes, then I would try to do, at least a cleanse right then and there wherever we are. But I would not want it under your roof right now. I would want to see what because if let's say it is you are the sole person right now, or is it transferring over to your son? But I want to see what you look like through spiritual eyes and see what's on you. And if there's something I can do for you, then I would like somebody to do that. Whether, again, whether you can get somebody locally to look at you, but away from your home.
Is that something that you've already tried, Angela? Because I know, like you say, you over the years you have tried lots of things.
Yeah, I had 2 teams actually came in here. The first team was she was a teacher. She used to be a teacher at Dominic's school at the time, elementary school, right down the street. But she had moved and she was into the paranormal field. So she came in and we did an echo vox, and we prayed before and prayed after, and she had a demonologist with her too.
Echo vox is in the app.
Yeah, she had one on her phone, and we just hooked it up to the speakers. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So when we were doing this, and but it come back because she asked, who or what is bothering Dominic, and it came back as dog person. There was a voice that, several times kept coming back, dog person. And I said, I was like, I've never mentioned it. I just, we were shocked. So then no one knew about my grandmother either that passed away a couple years before. And then my grandmother was always telling me and my friends, you couldn't go in her house without her making you food. She would make you eat a plate of food. And she would always say, honey, you better eat or you're gonna pass out, fall down, hit your head and bleed, or so, she'd say something real funny. And she was real funny like that, or Southern, And so that started coming through, and it came through as eat, pass out, and bleed. And I said, like, that it just reminded me right off the bat as my grandmother. And I said, I didn't say anything yet. And then it came back and she says, is there a person here that is trying to protect the family? And then it came back, Grandmom Shelton, which is my last name. And I said, what do you, and tears just like filled up my eyes. I'm like, oh, but, then again, too, demons do know your life. I mean, you just have to be careful what you're dealing with. And so I was leery on that. I didn't believe that she was actually here. I don't know. Somehow she would probably make me know she's here, but I don't know. But I was pretty shocked at both of the answers we were getting. So after we were getting ready to shut it down, somebody was coming through cursing and saying the F word and just, she says, she goes, you have to leave right now. I'm closing it down in the name of Jesus Christ. We prayed and everything. So they never came back. I never heard anything else from them at all. And then I had another group that came in, and they were supposed to give me a reveal. Never gave me my reveal. It's, I don't know. So I just thought maybe, there's people that will come and go. They want to play around, toy around what they can get and then leave. I don't want nobody.
This is the problem, though, isn't it? This is the problem with the frauds. And the people that have good intentions but don't actually know what they're doing. And as you know, you've got the impact now, Angela, where your life is worse now because you've had these people come in. When I get, I don't often do house cases, if I'm honest. I tend to do a lot of research at home these days as opposed to going out. I mean, we do go out when we can, Dave, don't we? But the rest of the time I'm sat at home studying for my psychology degree, or I'm reading books on the paranormal, whether it be UFOs, whatever. So I'm more of a home girl. But on the occasions where I have had people contact me, unlike a lot of paranormal investigations or investigators, I won't just pack up my little silver case and off I pop with my K2 and me temp gun. I will ask them to do me a diary. So I'm going to want a diary over the month on what's happened. So I want to know the ins and outs of a duck's. Are we past the watershed? I want to know the ins and outs of a duck's arse. I want all the details. So I want to know what's happening at what time, who was in the house, mood at the time. Have you got any illnesses? Are you on any medications? Are you on any substances? Do you see a doctor on a regular basis for anything at all? I will dig, because let's be realistic, a lot of these alleged cases these days aren't actually paranormal, which is why the paranormal gets such a bad name, because we have these people that come along with their, I mean, I'm going to say this, but I have got a white candle and sage sticks on the go over there. But people will come along with their candles on their sage sticks and they will be like, bish, bash, bosh, you're clear, off you go. And then the damage is left for people like Adam to come along and pick up the pieces. Now, this obviously has an impact on you, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, it's you never want to see this. I mean, it's the whole point of why I continue to move in this field. I mean, I still hold a day job because I don't make enough money, because again, I'm only doing readings, but
there ain't anybody that makes any money out the paranormal, that is for sure.
And the thing is, readings is all I'm charging for, but the paranormal, I mean, that's always free, because obviously, it's we haven't convinced the scientific community that the stuff exists enough to where they say yes.
Well,
But at the same,
I mean, you've got places like the SPR. I know you've got an SPR over in the States. We've got places like the Ghost Club. You know, they do believe it's real, but they are not like your Zach Bagans and your Most Haunted. They're not going to come out with the cameras and investigate over alleged reports. They want that documentation. They want the data, and this is where it's lacking.
True. Yeah. So, I mean, I would, I mean, it always bothers me when you start to hear cases like Angela that, you know, people have been trying and they're not getting anywhere. And obviously that's frustrating because, you know, if people were truly out there to help, then they would have done that by now. And to sit there and cause more headaches, so to speak, for Angela and her son.
Quite literally.
Right. It's that's unfortunate, you know, and like I said, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like I'm like a horse at a racetrack. That I'm like I want to go, but I'm at the same time I'm trying to be careful because again,
I know. Do you know what? I'm so sorry because we've sort of thrown you in at the deep end here, Adam. Yeah. Because I mean, when Angela was coming on, I was asking Angela to come on because she's got an empathic side. So you know, I thought Angela can, because I'm not. I'm about as empathic as a brick wall, in all fairness, you know. So I thought if Angela comes along, she can balance it out a bit and she can do the spiritual side of things where I'm lacking because I'm more scientific. But obviously it's not exactly worked out like that because we've just ended up discussing poor Angela's house or apartment, and the difficulties. But then in all fairness, you know, that has thrown you in at the deep end, so I do apologize.
No, it's fine. Well,
but it is interesting to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like anything. You sit there and, you know, like I said, most of the time, you know, if the clients start giving me the information, it's like, you know, you just let it go because even then, you know, I want to build that trust with the client too. So that's why, like I said, well, don't tell me much. Let me see what I get from the spirits that are there. But like this, it is, you know, I don't get in these situations too often where, you know, somebody comes up and tells me a story about what they're dealing with, you know, and at the same time, when you do get these, like when I do speaking events and stuff, it's like, man, you know, it's like, what's the problem that people aren't, you know, doing? I mean, what the whole point of what we're doing, you know, as a community is to try to sit there and help people like Angela and you know, get back to a normal way of life to where they're not having to look over their shoulders or what's, you know, creeping down the hallway.
Yeah.
So what do you think's going on then, Adam? Do you think it's a spirit attachment to a person rather than the
pressure, Adam? No pressure, no pressure at all, Adam. But what do you think's going on here?
No, much like what I said earlier, I truly think there's something that's been passed down through the family, and what would be interesting is to see how far back it has gone. Obviously, there, you know, grandmother and beyond, you know, are not around for us to kind of get those information. But even then, they might not have said a whole lot. You know, because obviously back then, again, like I was saying,
taboo subjects, wasn't it?
It's just hard to reveal. And I bet you there might be something back in the early, you know, years of your family's heritage that might have something to do with whether it's, you know, a curse or somebody put a spell on the family. It sounds like we're in that neighborhood to where that's the reason why it's been going down.
I have Native American Indian. And I have Blackfoot and Cherokee on my biological dad's side. And then my mom's side is Irish and Scots Irish. And so I'm like triple whammy.
I was just going to say, you've got all three angles coming together there.
Yeah.
And then we have,
which is possibly going to cause some form of an explosion on its own anyway, would it not, Adam?
Yeah. I mean, well, and that depends on like what happens. So, I mean, you know, obviously we got to break it down even further than that. But, you know, so with the Irish, you know, thing, you know, was there anything that was going on that side, you know, before, you know, the migration over? And then obviously with the Native Americans, there's a ton of things that obviously there was situations and stuff that obviously, you know, they might have put curses on people and families and things like that. And then everybody's coming together and then it sticks in there, because I've heard of this before. I've yet to deal with somebody that truly had something that's passed down through the ages.
I think our team medium, Andrew, he came up with something that the Indian side of it, he'd put a curse on the family or something, and that's probably coming down through the generations now. So it's how you lift that curse now, isn't it? If it is
so going forward, would we have to? I'm saying we because apparently I'm in on this now too, Angela. I hope you don't mind. I'm packing up my suitcase and flying over next week. But would it be a case of we would have to find the alpha case in order to solve the issues, or would it be a case of we can solve it now and put it to bed, if you will?
I would personally start with Angela. I mean, let's see if whatever it is, if we can get some information on it, maybe it'll give us something to go on. It may not be the very first time that we connect with him, or maybe it would take a couple times to see if maybe we can build up some sort of open dialogue with the spirit, so that way we can kind of get an idea, because sometimes you can get for me, I can find weaknesses within those spirits because of how they're addressing themselves or trying to fake something or manipulate what their real goal is. So I try to dive into it when I'm communicating with cranky evil spirits. I try to look for those mistakes that they make in their dialogue with me, and then if I find what I'm looking for, then I know what way I'm going to approach that. So do I think then I can get rid of it myself? Then I will attack it, so to speak, and then work my way, of getting it removed. But it would take some time for me to just sit there and want to have that conversation with it, to figure out what's its true goal. Is it truly going to continue to pass down, and then go from there?
Yeah, my phone might die out on me, just to let you guys know, because I'm 1%. I don't know why it's not charging. And that's true. It's always my luck,
I go back to what I said. Earlier. Like, you never quite know what you're going to get with entering the unknown.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's correct.
That is.
Well,
So what's the future hold for Adam at this current time? What is your plans for the future?
Well, before we get on to the future, can I just go back a bit, because I'm really interested. I'm asking loads of any medium I come across. I am asking them this question at the moment. We've obviously had, or we are ongoing with the COVID situation. Right. So how has that affected your mediumship? Are you getting inundated because of it, or?
The odd thing was with when it all kind of finally broke down, and interesting for me was my last day on site for my day job was March 13th, which was a Friday. So, for those of us that are creeped out by Friday the 13th, that was interesting.
I don't even get out of bed on a Friday the 13th. There's no point.
I just laugh at those days anyway, because I just make the best out of it. But it's weird is that I did have, I have done some cases, some paranormal, some readings, some cleanses. I have done one removal, and it hasn't been overwhelming. But I think at first, as the quarantine, for a lot of us, started to go on and on, I think it was like mid-April, towards the end of April, you started hearing things in the community, people are talking about stuff. So you see it. So it's like, well, is it because of the fact that you're always away from home with your jobs and all your passions and hobbies, and that you just didn't notice you had something there? Or because of the whole situation and the energies that the world has now, been swirling positive and negative and all that stuff, has that increased the activity? I don't know, but so I think that'd be a case-by-case situation to find out, if they're experiencing stuff in this home that they didn't notice before. I'd want to dive into it. I
have a theory on that, and I don't think it's that people are noticing or people are having activity happen. I think it's because people have been out of the house that they've not heard it.
True.
And because let's face it, people do tend to get a little bit freaked out. So the minute your fight or flight mode kicks in, which is exactly what happens when you think you hear a noise in your house, automatically fight or flight will kick in, and then your mind will start playing tricks on you. So you've gone from an air bubble in your radiator to the boogeyman's under your bed, you can't stick your leg out of the bed, because I bet loads of people in the chat room as well will admit to this. They won't sleep with the legs out of the bed in case something grabs it, bet ya. Right. And then if it's not that, it's somebody trying to break into your house. So, you automatically go on high alert and you're looking. And then when you've looked and there's nobody outside, it's a demon.
Right.
They grab you in a daylight too, anytime. As soon as you go to doze off, they slam something to make sure you can't get peace. And we get woken up like that too. As soon as we go to doze off, and boom, it sounds like over my head in my bedroom. It sounded like my kitchen cupboard over my head slammed shut. And I said, how do you, get that in the bedroom? And then we're all sitting at the kitchen table eating, and I'm facing the kitchen, and Dominic, he can see into the kitchen. William can see in the kitchen, but Nicholas was facing me. So we heard. Well, all of a sudden, our bottom cabinet door under the microwave swung open and hit into the wall so hard that it shook the dishes and the dish rack real hard. And I looked and I said, okay. I said, I'm still in like kind of disbelief, but I know what I just saw. But I'm like, can you just replay that for me? And I'm like, Nicholas, go in there and shut it and then swing it open real hard and see if you can make them dishes shake. He swung it open, hit, it sounded like it, but the dishes didn't move, didn't shake, nothing. I said, I was like, okay, we're going to ignore that. So we started ignoring it, and the more sometimes you can see these orbs with your eyes going right past you, you have to stop and back up because you think it's going to go into your face. They come right at me with I do put my cell phone on to know if I can sleep in my room or not that night. Because if I see them, I'm going the other way. And I've caught a red one in my bed after I felt something climb up in bed with me when I'm by myself and I'm facing the window. And and I can hear the breathing on the back of my neck, and it was like demonic. It was really horrible. And I said, I'm thinking, okay. And I took a deep breath. I had to get out of bed carefully and grab my digital camera. And then I just turned around. It was pitch dark in my room, snapped the picture, and caught that red orb right over the side of the bed where I just felt something lay. And Dave's seen all those pictures too. He's seen them all. The videos, you name it, he's seen them all. So, and then just recently we were squirting around the holy water with the salt and everything in it, and I had to put it in one of those big spray bottles. I think my phone's going to die on me, but I'm not sure. Yes. Die on me! Got it in there.
Angela, I think we might have lost her.
I think she's gone. Lost Adam. Adam's gone off.
Why have we lost Adam? Adam?
There he is.
Oh, it's back. It's back.
Oh,
there he is.
That was weird.
What's going on there then?
Yeah.
Right, I'm just going to remove Angela because the phone's died. Yeah. So Adam, what do you make of Angela's case? Because that is as extreme as I've never heard anything other than on the TV shows for something that dramatic. If I'm honest. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, you hear of those type of things, and it's but. I mean, you hear about them. Like I said, I've never had a case where it was, continuing to pass down from generation to generation. It just, hasn't happened in, all the years I've been doing this now. But gosh, I mean, you can't help but feel for somebody like that because of the fact that, she's not getting, their family is not getting any help that's genuine.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on video chat with Angela because she's my partner. Yeah. She's hopefully in time. She's moving over here. But I have heard things when I've been on video chat with her. I've heard knocking on her patio window doors. She's on the top floor, and they've heard a proper knock. I've heard the proper knock over the phone. I've also heard that when I was on the phone with her one night, that a lady called her middle oldest son's name, which is William, and I just turned around to Angela and said, did you just call him William? She said, no, why? I said, well, there's a woman just called his name. You know, and it's as clear as me talking to you now.
Yeah.
As I heard it. And she said, it wasn't me.
Wow.
So there's something really going on that needs investigating.
They're the sort of stories that you do tend to only usually hear, obviously, on and no disrespect here, please don't take this the wrong way, Adam, but they are a lot of American shows, aren't they? Like Haunted and programs such as that. They are all along the same lines.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and unfortunately, like with all the shows, I mean, it is a form of entertainment, and that's something that, you know, I say sometimes in presentations, and you know, it's just one of those things. You know, is there some truth to some of the stuff that is on TV? Yeah, you know, they do come across some good EVPs and things like that, or interactions with equipment. Can some of it be a little staged? Sure, absolutely. They could easily tweak it a little bit, but it's the whole thing. You know. I was on, you know, Gemma, I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw it, but, you know, I had an episode of a case that I worked, and, you know, they tweaked it enough to where it was a little bit more entertaining. And, you know, there's a good portion of it that, yeah, that's, you know, what happened. But then there was other things that were like, no, it's not how it really went down. And, you know, and even during the actual interview, you know, on camera, you know, they made, they're like, well, we don't want to do it like that. And I'm like, you know, and that's when you start going, you know, am I really trying to do this? You know, I wanted to try to get the message out that because of I did remote viewing for that case. And that was my point, was I really wanted to showcase the fact that, you know, it's possible that other mediums, whether they want to do it or not, that's completely up to them. But I found that it works and it's helpful in many ways. And like that show, you know, I actually still to this day have never set foot in the actual house. They made me appear that I was in the house, but I never did it.
Yeah.
And that case took almost 6 months to complete, and 3 remote view visits before I finally got rid of it the final time. And even then, the first 2 times, you know, the first time was just what's there. And we validated the information. Like I got the name of the entity. He was legitimately there. We had the records locally that proved it. So things I had no idea that I didn't know about. And then they wanted to try to live with it in peace, but unfortunately it kept messing with them. And then finally the last time, you know, which if anybody
enough is enough, off you go.
And that's the fun part, was that the if you guys ever get a chance to watch it, it's Paranormal Survivor. It's season 5, episode 8. Bringing Ghost In is the name of the.
I will link it into this this chat actually.
Yeah.
At the end, so we're the first segment of 2 that they talk about in that episode, but the ending is, I think, what people will be like, there's no way that couldn't have happened, but it did, where I literally go after the ghost, and they actually show us doing, which essentially was true. I really did. I remote view. They made it that I did the remote view within the house, but again, they didn't want to film in multiple locations for it, but I literally went after.
Which is a cost-cutting issue, which is hilarious to say that it a lot that do turn their shows, and it's not how the shows. I mean, they're intended to be entertainment, aren't they? But as you say, you know, there is some truth to some of them.
Right.
But it's a lot of sensationalism, which again has a knock-on effect for the paranormal field, and sometimes it's so frustrating because, I mean, I did a TV show here in the UK, and it was like a morning chat show, and as they was doing the morning chat show, because there was a few of us, that the theme song that they had playing before they introduced us was Ghostbusters. It's like,
oh my gosh, yeah, that fits.
We got another one. No, we haven't. It's not like that. Please give us a break.
That's why I think TV spoils the proper investigator there, is because when they hype it all up, and you
But
put a video on
this is
YouTube
it.
or
This is
on
where you're going to get me
Amazon.
started now. I'm going to go on to a rant now, David. Now look what you've done. This is all your fault, young man. Let me tell you.
Come on, Jen. Come on.
But this is the problem. It's the sensationalism. So when it comes to investigating, people do not investigate how they should anymore. They rock up with the K2 meters and the flashy lights and the cat balls, and it's all of a sudden like, oh, we've got a ghost, before looking at anything else. And it's so frustrating. And the amount of times that you will hear people say, this is a classic, Adam, you're going to love this one. I never find out about anything to do with a building, you know, like for your white lady. Well, if you've never heard anything about the building, how do you know there's a white lady?
Right.
So you have heard about the building.
Or a great lady.
What are you lying for? Do you know what I mean? It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's little things that frustrate me, but it's not what it used to be. And I think that fails a lot of us that have a real passion for the paranormal. And I don't just mean ghosts. I mean, I do mean paranormal in its umbrella term. So I mean every single form of paranormal. It lets it down for all of us because people expect sensationalism.
Yeah. And you think about it too, that they do this, you know, one, they want to be on TV then because it's like, ooh, I got the best evidence ever. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's great. But that what else do you got? I mean, so you collected something. That's great. I mean, we all spend time doing this, you know, we all collect evidence. I think we all have something that was really great, or we have maybe multiple of, pieces that have been like, you know what, that was a great session at this place. I mean, wow, you know, and you never forget it. So, you know, you definitely see it, you know, everybody, you know, wants that thing. And, you know,
see, I can be very honest. And I know people are going to be sat thinking, well, what's she on about? She's live on Facebook. But I don't want to be famous. I'm quite happy being Gemma from Grimsby, who sits in a bedroom on a computer chatting to people, because what I'm getting out of chatting to people, it's not fame, it's not fortune, it's not wannabe, it's information, it's education, it's learning.
Yep. Yeah. And I always said it too. If something came along, I would definitely entertain the idea to see, you know, whether it's maybe a guest spot or something like that. Sure, why not? You know, but if it doesn't, I'm still happy doing what I'm doing. There's nothing that's going to change me helping clients. I mean, if I don't get a lot of cases this year, which, you know, in some way it has kind of shrunk a little bit, but
I can imagine.
You know, but because I mean, obviously there's not a lot of, you know, people are reporting it and things like that, but you know what, it's okay. But I'm not going to sit there and, you know, I'm not going to, you know, and I will say, I mean, I have tried to get on some shows just to see if it would work out, but it didn't. So it's like, you know, and I'm okay with that. So like I said, if all I do is, you know, get to do some events and, you know, get to speak a little bit or even then like this.
So you do a lot of what do you call them? Would you call them conventions over your way?
They say convention. Well, so they'll either say Paracons or Parafest. So, you know, it's all the same. I mean, in a way, it's just how you want to word it. But I mean, you know, I've done some, you know, and there's some that, you know, I've, you know, just been a guest at, or some that I've just, you know, gotten a vendor table. And then there's some that, you know, like there's one that we do that our team does in November, which, you know, we're right now not sure it's going to happen, but just because of all the guidelines.
Fingers crossed, it'll be fine.
Well, the guidelines that, you know, the state, you know, is issuing right now is just like that's just not going to work.
Yeah, you see, because over in the States, it is states that are issuing their own advice, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they take the general, the CDC, they check the, you know, the government, you know, one, and then they basically then take what that is, and that's the recommendations, and then the state takes it, and then they create their own.
Well, I hope you're not a Trump supporter, because if you are, Adam, you're about to absolutely hate me. But with advice coming from Trump, you know, let's just inject a bottle of Dettol.
You know, I try to stay away from all that stuff because it truly is just whatever side people are on. I just it's too much negativity all around. So
oh, absolutely.
My
And
thing
far
is,
too much Dettol as well, love. Too much Dettol.
right? But I look at it as like I can spend my time being more positive and productive, helping people versus watching the news, which is hard to avoid sometimes.
Oh,
But sometimes on Facebook, I'm like, I just can't take it anymore because it's just like. So yeah, I try to stick to just the things that I enjoy, and my posts that I do, whether it's on my Medium page or personal page, everything's got to try to have some sort of positive outlook in there, and that's the way I'm going to continue to be because I'm just not going to get involved. It's just too much.
See, in case you've not noticed, Adam, I like to have my 2 pennies worth. If I've got an opinion, I'll voice it. I'm not bothered if I'm going to upset people. At the end of the day, it's nice to be controversial sometimes, and it's good to discuss. Mm-hmm. You have to discuss these things, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
So what have you got coming up? I know you've got your Paracon, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of stuff on hold. There was supposed to be stuff this month, but some of those have been pushed out a full year. I had another thing, what was it, end of July, which is more of a outdoor investigation. And I've done that the last 2 years. This would have made it 3, but right now everybody's kind of got a big question mark over it. Even with being outdoors, there's still restrictions. So it's like, which is that's a whole nother thing. The joke is, you can have 100 people, but you can't, but yet in tight situations, everybody's got to be apart, which is cool because some of the locations at this spot, you can be spread out, but so who knows? But if none of the stuff works out, then I'll just obviously continue. I do a show now on Tuesday nights, so I'll continue to do it with my friend Debbie. And then,
what time does your show go out?
Well, over here it is 7 p.m. So 5 hours ahead for you guys.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times.
Yeah, I know. To try to catch it live, Dave. I'm always because then I realize I'm like, wait a minute, what time is it for you? Like it's late, bud. So, but I appreciate it.
I have 2 matchsticks holding my eyelids up. So listen at the same time.
I'm an ex-Dave viewer now. I'm not going to lie. Now I've started having a look. There's no way. There is absolutely no way I can stay up. Honestly, not through want of trying, but it's impossible. I've turned into a granny now since all this COVID and this lockdown thing. It's like if I can't go anywhere in my pajamas of a night time, I'm not going.
Right.
I've seen it. We've seen it with the pink slippers.
Yeah. Well, it's on my Facebook. It's for everybody to see. Go check out me. They are not slippers anyway, David. Let me inform you what they are. They are not slippers. They are desk shoes.
Oh wow.
Desk shoes. Oh right. Is that new word for slippers then? That's it.
I like that.
There you go.
Slippers at work. Desk shoes.
Right.
Right. So going back to your investigating, Adam.
Yeah.
Do you find a lot of contamination when you're working outside?
There is. It depends on what time of night you are. So some of the early hours, obviously we're getting into summer, so the days are a lot longer, light wise. But it seems like when you start getting closer to midnight or so, a lot of the depending on where you're at, like that particular location. I mean, there is some neighborhoods not too far away, but by midnight, you just don't hear anything. You don't hear the cars going by on the roads. And so it gets easier. But the first little while, you can hear the traffic and you can hear people walking around and stuff. So, it's tough at first. But the later you get, the better it is. So
what would you prefer, working indoors or working outdoors?
That's interesting because of the fact that I think it just depends on the location. Now, that particular place, I've always been drawn to the outdoors, and the reason why is because there's some spots that have a lot of Native American energy. And so even though I'm not Native American, so I want to make sure I point that out, I do not have any Native blood in me, but I have done one past life regression with another medium friend, and we did find it in there. So now I have officially done DNA, and got my check. So I definitely don't have it legit, but possibly in another life, that's what they're saying. But but there was so much Native Americans in this one little spot that I just love going there every single time. And a lot of people won't go into these woods where it's a heavy concentration of them because they just feel hundreds of eyes looking at them. For me, it's a complete, like, I'm like at home. And when I said earlier, that I do, I'm a musician. So, I mean, I did saxophone and stuff like that when I was younger, and did guitar and, kind of had, sort of did some heavier music and stuff. But now my instrument of choice is the Native American flute. And I took that the very first year I was there a couple of years ago. And it was funny, we were in a group. It was the day before the actual event, and we're all out in the woods in the deep part, and everybody's, you kind of get in those little, everybody's kind of looking around. They're all like scared, and you could just feel the eyes, and the energy was heavy. You could cut it with a knife. And so I said, well, let me play a couple songs real quick. So I grabbed one of my Native American flutes, and I played for just like 2 minutes, just something real small, nothing major, but I just played, and I'm playing it, and within about 30 seconds, everybody's like eyes are going, they're looking around, but now it's not the fear. It's like, what just happened? Because the energy lifted. You didn't feel like you were in a bad spot anymore. And everybody's just kind of like looking, and they got little smiles, and I'm just playing for a little bit more. And then finally I stop, and everybody's just kind of got that, wow. And you could feel it. You could just feel the change. And I knew it when I was playing it because they heard the music and they were just like, you know what? Okay.
Did you say music's a healer?
Yes. And it is.
I'm guessing it was probably native for them too, so it would have put them on an even footing.
Yep.
Let them feel more at home.
And the intention, when I played, I was playing for them. It wasn't for everybody else around me.
No, it was for them. It was to show you come in peace, so to speak.
And they did. And so now anytime I go there, I'll go into the woods by myself, that one little spot, and they just you could just feel the love. You can feel like, sort of like they'd be willing to come up and, put their arms.
Speaking of feeling the love, this is going to sound like a very odd request, Adam, but I have a lot of people in the chat room that are saying they absolutely love your beard. Could you just give them a full view?
Yeah, that was, it is getting there.
Yeah, I tried to grow one, but
well, it's funny. Well, we were talking about DNA and things, and one of my things that I was double checking it, and I posted about it, and I totally got the numbers wrong when I read the results. And the main part of me is Polish. So it was like 83%. So I'm like, pretty much a purebred,
Purebred.
But then when I had the results, I saw something that the family had no idea, which was Scandinavian. And I misread the number, and then when I looked at it last month again, I looked at it and it was 16%. And I went, wait a minute. And I'm thinking, so then now the wheels have been turning for the last couple of years, because at the same time, when I started growing this was the same time I was really getting into the Scandinavian culture, Vikings, so to speak. And then I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I started listening to a lot of groups, that are in Europe and Germany and things that do play, a little bit of modern with the historical side with the instruments and stuff that would have been back then. And so I just got into it. I'm like, I'm loving this. And finally, like, light bulbs are going up going, wait a minute. You've got Scandinavian. Is there some part of that is why maybe it is in your system? And it just took a while for it to open up. So I've played that in my head a little bit. It's like, maybe I've got that kind of, Wiccan pagan sort of style that they grew up learning and experienced. So that's been kind of fun. So yeah, the beard thing has been sort of that thing of kind of paying homage to the Scandinavian blood in me. Well,
it's cool. Everybody is absolutely loving it. So
I appreciate that.
You just got a picture in my head now of you wearing a helmet with horns coming out the sides.
Right.
Dressed up as a Viking now.
Oh, you so know that he's going to do it now, Dave. He's going to be live on his show on Tuesday.
Right. I don't have one, so I can truthfully say I do not have anything that even comes close to that. But I'll probably have to look for something. And
you can make one.
True, that is true. I could.
Yeah, get crafty, and just make one. guys, we have been going for over an hour and a half now, and it's starting to get a little bit late, so I think we are going to have to draw it to a close. But Adam, I definitely want to chat with you again in the very near future, if that's okay.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, and thank you so much. To both you, Gemma. Awesome. I'm glad I got a chance to really talk to you guys face to face, so to like we're saying. But it's nice to hear your voices and things like that instead of always through a typed message.
Oh, I don't know about that. I sound really common and horrible. Yeah.
It's been great. I'm loving it.
I sound like David. I sound like David Beckham.
I love her.
The squeaky voice. No, I don't look like him.
Not sure who he's trying to get.
Wonderful.
See, this is the problem, Adam. If my mouth isn't saying it, my face will. So you just
can't hide it. Yeah, you can't hide it. Yeah.
I always every time I go on an investigation, I'm the first person that gets picked on every single time because I'm small. They all call me a midget.
That happened.
Literally, we walk into an investigation and it's like, "Where's Dave? Oh, hey, Dave! Didn't see you down there."
Yeah.
See, for us, real quick, we find somebody that makes like the first kind of like either dumb remark or they slip up saying something, and then that person is the target for the rest of the evening. So it goes around. We've all been in our turn to where we've been picked on for a whole evening. So I get
the last investigation we did as a team, it was absolutely hilarious, wasn't it, Dave? So we'd just done, we'd just finished an experiment, and the experiment was traumatic for everybody there. It was one of those experiments where you could really feel it, and it unnerved everybody. Well, just as we was finishing, one of the team fell down a hole in the floor. So you could just
pretty right. He was on a chair. He was on a chair, and his chair went down the hole, one of the legs, and he went up in the air. And so did the camera.
Oh no!
Sean, wherever you are,
he kept over the camera. It was a trooper. He kept over the camera.
Literally, all you heard was like this awful noise, and then I'm not going to lie, there might have been a swear word, and then swiftly followed by, "I saved the camera." Well, I swear that was it. We'd lost it. But I think you need moments like that on investigations. I mean, hopefully without injuries, but you need something just to, because your energy starts to deplete. So you need something to give you that boost. And
Indeed.
Although it would have been better without him hurting himself, but it's that positivity of it.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, 100%. That's the way it goes. And a good team should have that. I think you all need to be able to, when to get serious, and then when to have fun. And that's, I think, a good team can do that.
Absolutely. Right, guys, we really are going to have to draw it to a close. Adam, it has been an absolute honour to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much for coming along.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
For everybody watching, we will see you next week, and I'm sure I'll speak to you in the week. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Take care.